Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. So, in this video, we're going to look at an older article from earlier in the year from PC Magazine, Sasha Segan. Although he's no longer with PC Magazine, I wanted to pull this one up because this is very interesting to break down. So, T-Mobile, we're tripling mid-band 5G coverage this year. So that's still within this calendar year of 2022, which there's not much left in the year. We're almost done with this year. T-Mobile just reported 250 million pops with 2.5 at the third quarter earnings, and they should be at around 260, 265 to finish out Q4. So the interesting part about this is as they continue to say that they're tripling the mid-band coverage versus what they had last year. So last year, to get to where they ended up the year, they had to triple the mid-band coverage. And this year they had to do so again. And next year they will likely have to expand it to 2 to 3 times again to get to 300 million. But to get to the 300 million cover with 2.5, they're going to need a lot more sites. As you get further into rural and after 260, it gets very, very spaced out. Even more so potentially than what they had to build out this year. And T-Mobile's covering around 222 million with low band, which low band, of course, it can reach further. Mid-band can't reach as far, so they're going to have to add more sites on that geographical footprint to get the mid-band to reach that 300 million pops. And in some cases, they're going to have to expand to brand new territory altogether to gain new pops to get to that 300 million. So that's very interesting. So in this video, this is probably going to be a longer video. I'm going to share a few things that I've been hearing and give my thoughts behind it. So 2020 April is when this journey started for T-Mobile. The integration of the network, adding the 2.5 onto the T-Mobile grid, and then, of course, the Sprint Keep sites. All of that started in April of 2020 when the merger closed. And T-Mobile started inching up the Capex each and every year after. So at first, they spent between 11 to 12 billion, I think, in 2020. Then in 2021, they went up to about 12 billion. And then this year, they're spending 13.9 billion. So they're seeing opportunity to scale faster. They sense the success. They can see it in the numbers. So to start off this year with the guidance, they said that they are going to take a chunk out of next year's capital for 2023, and they're going to move some of it into 2022 because they can see the opportunity to get some of this stuff done sooner. And a lot of it, according to T-Mobile, they're getting it done, right? They got the Sprint decommissioned largely a year ahead of schedule. The Sprint Keep sites are supposed to be done by the end of the year. I doubt that happens. I'm really doubtful now. I'm hearing some stuff, so like I said, I'm going to leave all that info, unofficial info, in this video. So next year's Capex, right? There's nothing out publicly yet, so there's nothing official. And we won't hear next year's guidance on capital until the fourth quarter earnings call. But next year's capital, I'm told, is going to come down quite significantly. They're going to drop Capex roughly in the $8 to $9 billion range, which is about a 40% cut from what we saw this year, right? Where they're going to peak at 13.9 billion. 13.7 to 13.9 is the range. And I was told that T-Mobile has passed the peak Capex, so we won't see anything out of the ordinary anymore. 8 to 9 billion for next year, and likely we will see that as an average Capex on a yearly basis. For example, as we were early on in LTE and throughout LTE, Verizon was on average spending about 16 to 17 billion on their Capex. And it sounds like that's where T-Mobile may feel comfortable on an average yearly spend between 8 to 9 billion. Maybe we go 9 to 10, but that's only if they see a different business case or Like they said, if they see that, hey, look, we need to materially scale new sites, small cells for fixed wireless access, then we may see them go to 9 to 10 billion or 10 to 11 billion to up that to pay for the additional infrastructure needed. And then they will say, okay, we're spending an additional 2 separate billion, right? 2 billion separate for a business case for fixed wireless access. And that's what I'm hearing. That's how they're going to maneuver and move forward. So there's nothing crazy outside of what we saw this year going to happen with T-Mobile in the future. And that's a very strong case for their financials. That means the Capex coming down by 40%. That means net income goes up significantly. Free cash flow goes up. Postpaid service revenue will go up. So I want to throw in, so pre-merger, before the Sprint merger, T-Mobile's net income was I watched the fourth quarter earnings for 2019. They did it February 6th, 2020. That's when John was still CEO and they were getting ready to, hand over the CEO position to Mike Sievert. T-Mobile posted as a standalone still, because at that point the deal wasn't approved yet. Excuse me. T-Mobile posted a net income of 751 million, which is more than what they are posting now as a merged company. So just keep that in mind. So as they reduce the Capex down to those levels, I am predicting, just doing some, brief math, T-Mobile is going to post a net income between 1 to 2 billion at that point. So still not as good as what the competition is posting, but T-Mobile will continue working that each and every fiscal year. They're going to keep working and getting that net income up. They said it. They have to start balancing growth and profit. They got to start balancing that. And that's what they're doing by dropping the Capex, right? They peaked. They now peaked. This is the first year ever that they spent close to 14 billion. They've never done so as a company. So they peaked, and this is past peak year. They got a lot done. Don't get me wrong, they're getting a lot done, and there's still a few months left to finish out the year. So they're getting a lot of stuff done on the network. And I know 8 to 9 billion is going to shock a lot of people, but 2023 is a very interesting year because what I'm about to say next, T-Mobile has done it before. So this is nothing out of the ordinary for that team. So what they plan on doing with the 8 to 9 billion for the fiscal year FY 2023, they plan on spending about 95+% of that Capex for that year on the SMIRA markets, small market rural areas, for the expansion. So next year, just about all of that Capex spend, capital spend, is going towards the rural expansion. Does that mean they starve the metro core? Yes, that's what that means. There's no additional, other than what's already been paid for on the capital year 2022, right? Because there's going to be some stuff that will run into next year. And what I mean by that is there's already been permits approved, equipment paid for under this year's capital budget that'll get deployed in 2023. So you'll still see that. But under the physical year 2023, everything that gets paid moving forward in 2023, I'm told, is all going towards rural United States expansion. And they've done this before in 2014 or 2015. I can't remember, but a large chunk of that Capex went to rural expansion in those years, or just expanding the network, period. Because they were still behind on some major interstates at that time when they got that Band 12 A block from Verizon. They started expanding more, and there was a huge expansion from 2014 through 2016. And now they're doing it again, but they're doing it for growth. This one is strictly for growth in 2023. Yes, the network will grow with this, but they're going to touch a lot of new areas with new coverage. In fact, I'm very confident in saying that we will go back to what we saw a few years ago. There's going to be areas, again, where T-Mobile will have to catch up to the network with retail distribution. I almost guarantee it. I'm about 199.9% sure T-Mobile is going to have to catch up to network coverage with retail distribution. So that means there's going to be areas where T-Mobile will have new coverage where there's going to be no store. Now, of course, there's always virtual retail online. That's always going to be there. That always has been there. But there's going to be areas, like I said, where there's now going to be new coverage and there's going to be no retail distribution as of yet. So that's what they're going to run into. So they're expanding next year very, very, very aggressively. And it's a good thing. It's good for the competition. But then, people are like, okay, 2024, they better start moving back into the metro areas, getting the C-band DoD and the small cells up and running. And from what I'm told, that's the plan. The C-band DoD combo, right? They're going to wait for the dual band radios. I'm told that's already been aggressively moved into 2024. I'm also hearing that some of the Sprint keep sites that have not been completed within this calendar year are going to be moved to 2024. And I've been tracking that very closely because I have an area for me personally where there is a Sprint site that is listed as a keep site, but it has not yet been converted. Would be a huge coverage fill-in for T-Mobile in that specific spot, because there's currently no native T-Mobile coverage, or no coverage for that matter at all, not even roaming in that specific spot. So I requested, hey, this is the address. What can you tell me, to the source? And they already came back and said like 2 months ago that it's been pushed into May of 2023. And I checked again recently and already been told that it's been moved into Q1 2024. And that's a Sprint keep site. So that's what I'm hearing, right? None of this, of course, is official. That's just what I'm hearing. But it makes sense because they've done this before. This is nothing new. They will starve the Metro core. Of course, they will still do other enhancements, right? They will get the spectrum deployed, more spectrum deployed, not necessarily physically having to touch sites, right? But if the radio's already up there, as we've already seen, they're going to start widening the spectrum. We're going to start seeing 140, 160, 180 megahertz of N41. And T-Mobile feels that may be enough capacity to where for a little while, or at least for a whole year, they won't have to do as much work at the metro levels. So it's going to be a pretty boring year for the metro core, but rural United States is going to see a pretty competitive expansion. Is it going to match the competitors? Probably not yet, but it will get more and more and more competitive as these next few years go on, because T-Mobile knows that it's going to work because they're already seeing it. At the beginning of the year, they competed within 30% competitively on the network side on the small markets, rural areas, 30%. They're already at competing in 50% now with the network, and are expected to be at 60% competitive by the end of the year. And they see the ports. They see people that are coming. And they said it recently, they just said it at the third quarter earnings, the growth on postpaid accounts is now split equally between metro and rural. So it's working. The playbook is working. They're winning. They're taking share. And it's just overall healthy for the company to bring that growth in, because they've been underpenetrated in those segments, in those vectors of growth that they want to grow. So let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. Look forward to reading your comments. Make sure you guys stay tuned to the channel, like, share, subscribe for more. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. See y'all in the next one. Peace.